The super unit is really a large interior unit. Part of the manufacturing process is building the entire interior outside of the boat and then dropping it into the hull in one piece.
It starts in the design room actually, because the interior, the super unit of our boat, not only is the living quarters of the boat, but it's actually structure to the hull sides and to the deck as well. So the super unit function starts actually in engineering.
With our CAD software, we actually have a library full of all the individual pieces and parts and components, so we can build it all virtually before it ever goes into a super unit. So everything, pretty much everything is figured out before the super unit assembly begins.
I think special is there's a lot of steps leading up to it, starting right back in our mill room. So the use of CNC equipment and our tab and slot process that allows us to create the sub-assemblies or the units.
When we went to the super unit, part of that evolution was this tab and slot type of assembly. And what this allowed us to do is, number one, pretty much eliminate any type of mechanical fastener, which can loosen up over time, they can break. So what you end up with is all of these individual components glued together, essentially becoming one structural component.
The IntelliStore is basically, it's a robot that handles all the materials that we use on the interior of the boat. It stores all of the different plywoods, the different structures that we use. And then when it's prompted to, it will actually pick the kits for the boat and it will load them to the CNC router and it will cut those in the order that we need them to cut. As they go through the mill room, go through the processes, they're visually inspected as they move through. Once they're good enough to go, they get put into kits. They get then moved into trim assembly area where the units start to get built. That's where they'll start building the heads and all the main structures of the boat. Once the sub-assembly units are roughed in, they go to a finish area. The finish area is where we'll put the doors on, the doorknobs, the locks, the mirrors, the extra moldings that we need to put on. Countertops get put in, faucets get put in. Those are all parts that start to make the sub-assemblies look like an interior part of your home. It becomes one unit, then that's where we call it the super unit.
I'd say it's a major step of our build process. It's the point where we're marrying that whole interior into the boat, and it's a critical process. How that interior functions and the fit and the quality of it is dependent upon the work we've done up to that point. You know, several things. The hull bottom structure and the dimensional control that we use as we create the hull, the CNC technology that we create the units with, the personal responsibility from the team members to make sure that those things are put together the way we've created them. All leads to that point where we're putting the unit inside the boat, and it's a major operation on the assembly line.
When we get everything ready and bonded, we lower the super unit down to the floor. This becomes part of the structure and the strength, along with the tabbing of the units to the hull sides. Without the hull sides, the unit can be a little bit fragile. Without the unit, the hull side can be fragile. So together they create the structure and the bond and the strength that we need for our boats to be called Tiara.